She stood at the pack gates, bags packed, twins clutching her hands. Rain soaked through her cloak. Thunder rolled across the sky, like a warning that had come too late. For a long moment, she did not move. She did not speak. She did not even breathe. The weight of 5 years crashed back onto her shoulders. It pressed down on her chest. It tightened around her lungs. It forced her to confront everything she had buried just to survive. The iron bars loomed like a memory she had tried to forget, but never truly escaped. Then the smaller twin tightened his grip on her fingers. His voice trembled as he whispered, "Mama, are we safe now?" The question lingered in the air, because safety had never truly existed for them. Not the way children deserved, not the way she once believed it could. She did not answer right away. The truth was complicated, heavy, dangerous. Too heavy for young ears. Instead, her gaze lifted slowly through the rain and torchlight. And that was when she saw him, standing across the courtyard, as if pulled there by something unseen. The Alpha King, the man who once claimed power over her entire life, then shattered it without hesitation. The man who rejected their fated mate bond like it meant nothing. For a brief second, the world narrowed to just the two of them. Past and present collided in silence. When their eyes met again, after all this time, something shifted, something dangerous, something unfinished. Her voice finally came, low and steady. Stripped of everything except truth. "We are not running anymore." She paused, just long enough for the words to settle. Then she finished with quiet certainty. "We are returning." And what he felt in that moment was not recognition, not relief, but something far more unsettling. Because the rejected Luna he had cast aside had come back stronger. Welcome to Rejected Luna Stories. Tonight, you are stepping into a world where destiny does not guarantee loyalty, where the fated mate bond can be broken with a single decision, and where a rejected mate does not always disappear quietly into the shadows, because sometimes a rejected Luna survives. She adapts, and she returns stronger than anyone expected. This is not just a story about heartbreak. This is a story about power, about consequence, about an Alpha King who made a choice he believed he could live with, and the secret heirs who would prove him wrong. 5 years earlier, beneath a full moon that hung heavy and luminous in the midnight sky, she stood barefoot on the cold ancient stone at the center of the pack grounds. The stone had been worn smooth by generations. Faint runes glowed under the moonlight, symbols of unity, of fate, of unbreakable bonds. Tonight, those symbols felt like a cruel joke. Her pulse raced wildly, a frantic drumbeat in her ears. Her breath came in shallow gasps that misted in the chill air. Every inch of her body tuned to the powerful rhythm of the fated mate bond. It pulsed between her and the Alpha King, warm and golden. It wrapped around her heart like invisible threads of destiny, for one fragile, beautiful moment. She believed this was the beginning of everything she had been promised, everything she had endured. She had waited for this night since she was 16. Years of training, lonely nights wondering if she was worthy, whispered doubts from those who said a girl of her lineage could never stand beside a king. She had borne it all, because the moon goddess had marked her. The dreams had shown her his face. The bond had called to her even before they met, and now the entire pack had gathered to witness it. Hundreds of them formed a wide, solemn circle. Warriors stood shoulder to shoulder with elders. Mothers held sleeping pups. Young, unmated wolves watched with wide, envious eyes. Torches flickered, casting dancing shadows. Their attention pressed down on her like a physical weight. She could smell their excitement, their curiosity, and the faint undercurrent of judgment. Yet something felt wrong. It was subtle at first, like a hairline fracture beneath a flawless mirror. a quiet warning from her instincts, a tightening in her chest. Her wolf paused, confused. She felt it, a cold thread woven into the golden warmth, a shadow at the edge of her vision. But her heart refused to listen. This was her moment. This was supposed to be her future. She had survived the rejection of her birth pack, the loss of her parents, the years of proving herself in Ironfang. The goddess would not be so cruel. The wind stirred, carrying pine, damp earth, and night-blooming flowers. An owl hooted in the distance, too loud, too final. She curled her toes against the cold stone, grounding herself. Then he stepped forward. Kale Draven, Alpha King of Ironfang. The world seemed to still. The murmurs died instantly. Even the wind held its breath. He was every inch the legend. Tall, broad-shouldered, radiating raw power. Dark hair fell across his forehead. Silver eyes glowed faintly, the mark of his royal bloodline. His aura rolled off him in waves, forcing weaker wolves to lower their gazes. Her heart soared and broke at the same time. She searched his face desperately, hunting for warmth, for recognition, for anything. Instead, she found only cold distance. His expression was carved from ice, beautiful, terrifying, completely unreadable. Those silver eyes looked through her, as though she were already a memory he wished to forget. Her stomach dropped. When he finally spoke, his voice cut through the silence like a blade. I, Kale Draven, Alpha King of Ironfang, reject this bond. For a fraction of a second, the words didn't register. They hung in the air, unreal, impossible. But her body understood immediately. The bond didn't fade gently. It tore, violently, painfully. Invisible claws shredded the golden threads inside her chest. White-hot pain blinded her. Her knees buckled. The world tilted. Her wolf howled in agony. A sound so raw, it echoed through her soul like a death knell. The silence that followed was suffocating, heavy with shock, heavy with judgment. Hundreds of eyes bored into her, some with pity, some with satisfaction, others simply indifferent. She whispered his name, barely able to breathe. Kale, don't. It wasn't just a plea. It was disbelief. It was every dream crumbling between them. He didn't look at her. He didn't acknowledge her. His voice stayed cold, detached. I will not be bound to a weak Luna. This pack needs strength, not sentiment. The moon goddess was mistaken. Those words didn't just reject the bond. They erased her completely. The pain spread like liquid fire. She forced herself to stay upright, spine straight, chin lifted. One step back, then another. Betrayal tasted like ash and blood. She turned away, slowly, deliberately. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. The forest swallowed her. The forest did not welcome her, and it did not protect her, not even a little. It was indifferent, on sea, completely merciless. The same woods that once felt like a warm sanctuary now revealed their true nature. Dark, tangled, unforgiving in every way. Trees rose like silent sentinels all around her. Their massive branches clawed at the sky, blocking what little moonlight pierced the thick canopy. The ground beneath her bare feet was uneven, treacherous. Roots snaked across her path like traps laid by the earth itself. Every shadow hid danger. Every rustle could mean death. In those first brutal nights, she nearly died more than once. Not just once, not twice, many times. Survival was no longer simple instinct. No, it became a brutal, a conscious decision, made with every single breath she forced into her lungs. Each choice carried heavy risk. Drink from this icy stream, or risk dehydration, climb this steep ridge, or circle around and lose hours, rest for a few moments, or push forward until her body gave out. She chose every time, and she paid the price for every single choice. One freezing night. Only 4 days after she walked away from the sacred stone, she finally collapsed. Her legs refused to carry her any farther. She slumped against the base of an ancient oak. The rough bark dug into her spine, cold, biting, unforgiving. Her vision blurred at the edges. The world tilted in sickening waves. Her breath came in shallow, ragged gasps that burned her throat like fire. The broken mate bond still screamed inside her chest, a constant, throbbing wound that refused to close. She could taste blood and deep despair on her tongue. This is it, she thought. This is finally where it ends. This is where everything he broke finishes breaking me completely. The cold crept deeper into her bones. It settled there like it planned to stay forever. Her wolf, once vibrant and strong, now lay curled in a silent ball of grief. She closed her eyes, ready to let the darkness take her. The forest would claim her quietly. No one would ever find her body. Kale Draven would never know what became of the weak Luna he discarded. She waited for the end, but then she felt it. Something faint, something completely unexpected. Not more pain, not the dying echo of the rejected bond. Something else entirely. Small, steady, and impossibly alive. A tiny spark of warmth pulsed gently beneath the agony. It fluttered like the delicate wing of a moth, fragile, yet insistent. It tugged at her soul. It pulled her back from the edge. Her eyes snapped open. She didn't understand it yet, not fully, but she listened. She trusted it with everything she had left. With trembling hands, she pressed her palms to her abdomen. She felt nothing concrete, only that quiet, stubborn rhythm. It gave her strength. One shaky step, then another. She kept moving through the night, following no path, driven only by that faint spark and her fierce refusal to die on her knees. That single choice saved her life. Weeks blurred into a haze of pain, hunger, and relentless movement. She pushed on through storms, through exhaustion, through moments when she wanted to scream, until she found shelter in an abandoned hunter's cabin, deep in the wilds. It was half collapsed, covered in moss, smelling of damp earth and decay. The roof leaked when it rained. The walls groaned in the wind, but it was hidden. It was safe. It was hers. One cold dawn, as pale light filtered through the cracked window, she finally understood. She sat against the wall, knees drawn to her chest, and then she felt it clearly. 2 distinct heartbeats. Not one, 2. Tiny, fast, strong. They beat beneath her own racing heart. Twins, a boy and a girl. She knew it with absolute certainty. The rejected bond had left something behind, a secret gift, a hidden miracle. Tears slipped down her cheeks, hot and silent. She whispered into the quiet cabin, her voice hoarse but filled with steel. I will not let them take you from me. It wasn't fear speaking. It was resolve. Pure, unbreakable resolve. In that moment, something inside her shifted forever. The shattered girl began to harden, to sharpen, to transform. She did not change all at once. No, it happened steadily, relentlessly, day by painful day. She learned to hunt with crude traps, She taught herself which plants healed and which killed. She ran until her legs no longer trembled. She fought the cold, the hunger, the grief that clawed at her in the dark. When doubt crept in, when memories of Kael's cold silver eyes threatened to drown her, she placed her hands on her growing belly and remembered those 2 heartbeats. That was enough. There were many moments of failure, moments when she was outnumbered, moments when survival meant choosing between fighting and running. One night, months later, the forest tested her again. A rogue wolf had stalked her for days. Large, scared, confident, he circled the cabin, yellow eyes glowing. "You smell like a rejected bitch," he growled. "Easy prey." She stepped forward, her voice calm, carrying new steel. "Walk away," he laughed. That was his mistake. The fight was brutal and short. Claws flashed. Blood sprayed across the leaves. When it ended, the rogue lay motionless, throat torn open. She stood above him, breathing hard, blood on her hands. She was no longer prey. She had become the predator. As the years passed, she raised the twins not just to survive, but to understand the world in all its cruelty and beauty. The boy she named Rowan, dark-haired, silver-eyed like his father, but with her fierce spirit. The girl she named Lyra, bright-eyed, quick-witted, with an instinct for danger that often saved them. They grew up in hidden clearings, forgotten ruins, and moonlit forests. They never knew a pack, only their mother's hard lessons. "Never trust silence," she told them around the fire. The flames painted their faces in gold and shadow. "It always hides something. Listen beyond it. Listen for the lie beneath the quiet." They listened. They learned. They adapted. She taught them to track, to hide, to fight with tooth, claw, and mind. She taught them the old stories of the moon goddess, not as comfort, but as warning. Strength was never given. It was taken, forged in blood and loss. Rowan became fast and powerful. Lyra became clever and precise. Together, they were unstoppable, willed, resilient, unbreakable survivors. Slowly, quietly, a reputation formed in the rogue networks. Whispers spread through the wilds like smoke. Stories of a woman who could not be tracked, a woman who could not be defeated, a woman who protected her children with terrifying ferocity. Some called her the ghost of the deep woods, others, the untouchable. But the name that stuck, the one she never claimed, yet never denied, was the Shadow Luna, far away in Ironfang. The Alpha King began to hear those whispers. At first, he dismissed them, but the stories grew stronger. Reports of rogues found dead with no scent, caravans spared that reached her hidden camps, battles avoided because warriors felt a chill at her name. Kael Draven sat on his throne. Silver eyes narrowed. Something ancient stirred in his chest, the ghost of a bond he had severed. He did not yet know the twins carried his blood, but the whispers were already too late. The Shadow Luna was coming. When the gates opened, the entire pack felt it, deep in their bones. The massive iron gates groaned like distant thunder. A ripple passed through hundreds of wolves, warriors, elders, mothers, younglings, all standing rigid under the midday sun. The air grew thicker, heavier, charged with impossible weight. Scents sharpened, pine, stone, fear, and the wild signature of the Shadow Luna. Kael Draven stood on the raised dais, his frame rigid, silver eyes locked on the entrance. For 5 years he had ruled without weakness, but today, something ancient stirred. His wolf paced restlessly, whining, growling, confused. She stepped through, not broken, not trembling. The shadow Luna walked with measured steps, dark cloak flowing like liquid night, twin blades at her hips, posture radiating unshakable power. 5 years had carved her sharper, stronger, eyes that had seen death and chosen life. Behind her walked Rowan and Lyra, 15, carrying royal blood. The pack inhaled as one. Kale's voice cracked through the silence. "Why are you here?" She let the silence stretch, longer, deeper. When she spoke, her voice carried calm and controlled. "You made a choice 5 years ago." The words landed heavily. "You just didn't understand what it would cost you." Then he saw them, really saw them. Rowan, tall, silver eyes, fearless. Lyra, sharp, hand on her dagger. Everything stopped. Kael's voice dropped. Unsteady. "They're mine." She nodded once. "Absolute." Yes, that single word echoed louder than any roar. In that moment, the Alpha King realized he had been wrong. Completely, irreversibly, catastrophically wrong. The silence expanded, stretched, and deepened, until it felt like the entire world had stopped breathing and was forced to witness what came next. The vast courtyard of Ironfang Keep, usually filled with the clash of training blades, the murmur of voices, the laughter of pups, had fallen into an absolute, breathless hush. Hundreds of wolves stood frozen, eyes wide, hearts hammering together. Even the wind had abandoned the moment. Only the faint rustle of cloaks remained, and a distant hawk's cry. The weight of 5 years pressed down on every soul, heavy, suffocating, unescapable. The twins stood between their parents, caught in the fragile space between past and future. Rowan and Lyra, 15 years old, quiet alertness drilled into them since birth. Rowan's silver eyes studied Kael with intense focus, searching for lies, for weakness. Lyra's gaze flicked between her mother and the Alpha King, reading every micro-expression, calculating possibilities. They had only known him in fragments, bedtime stories, vague warnings. Now, he knelt before them, real, breathing. The silence stretched tighter. Then Rowan spoke, his voice soft, almost tentative, yet carrying more weight than any roar. "Are you our father?" The question hung like a blade mid-strike. Simple, honest, devastating in its innocence. Kael felt it as a moment of reckoning. For the first time, the undefeated Alpha King lowered himself to one knee, not as ruler, not as alpha, as a flawed, broken, regretful man. His broad shoulders curved, dark hair fell forward. Then he lifted his gaze. "Yes, I am." The 3 words hit like thunder. Gasps rippled through the pack. Elders clutched their chests. Warriors looked shaken. It was acceptance, responsibility, the beginning of something he could no longer control. Kael's silver eyes shimmered with shame, wonder, grief, and fierce protective longing. He looked at Rowan, seeing his own strength, at Lyra, seeing her mother's fire, his children, his blood, alive, because she refused to let them die. He lifted his gaze to her. The shadow Luna stood tall, unmoved. "I was wrong," Kael said, his voice low, rough, painfully honest. 5 years ago, I was wrong about everything." The admission landed heavy. It could never erase the pain, the lonely nights, the fear, but it was real, raw, She saw it. She understood. But she did not soften immediately. 5 years doesn't disappear because you regret it, she replied, her voice clear, forged in fire. You didn't just reject me, Kale. You rejected them before they took their first breath. I walked into that forest with nothing but a shattered bond and 2 tiny heartbeats fighting to survive. I nearly died more times than I can count. And every time I wanted to give up, I remembered your voice calling me weak. She paused, letting the words settle like frost. So no, your regret does not erase those nights, but it is a beginning. If you choose to make it one, something shifted. The mate bond pulsed again, scarred, wiser, tentative. Like a candle flame in the wind, their wolves stirred. The twins stepped closer. Rowan first, then Lyra. You're really him, the Alpha King. Kale swallowed hard. I am, and you are my son, my heir by blood. His eyes moved to Lyra. And you are my daughter. You both carry the strength of Ironfang and the strength of your mother. Lyra studied him, then asked, why did you send her away? Kale closed his eyes. Because I was arrogant. Because I believed strength only looked one way. Because I was afraid. He opened his eyes and looked at her. I was wrong about her. She is the strongest wolf I have ever known. The distance closed just enough, not fully healed, but enough to change everything. They were no longer separate stories. They were one fractured family, standing at the edge of something new, forged stronger through fire and survival. The pack watched in stunned silence. For the first time, Kale Draven did not look like a king. He looked like a man ready to fight for a second chance. And the Shadow Luna, standing tall between past and future, knew that whatever came next would be on her terms. If you loved this story, subscribe to Rejected Luna Stories. Comment below your favorite moment. Was it the pain of the rejected mate? The rise of the Luna who returned stronger? Or the moment the Alpha King finally faced his secret heirs? More stories like this are coming. And some bonds, no matter how broken, never truly